Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Rana. Hey, Rana, thank you for being co-host this week. And Rana, tell me what was your page 105?
Well, on the first page, of course, I zeroed right in on the title. And keeping the name I sacred, I'm kind of a word girl, so I just wanted to look up sacred and just make sure that I knew what was being proposed. And what I came up with was purity of self. And I think that, Rupert uses that word a lot, pure, essential, just distilled down to that purity of self. And so I liked that to open up with. And especially, so the first paragraph, of course, starts to make me think right away. I is the name that whatever knows or is aware of itself gives to itself. And then here it was. A rock does not know itself. A flower does not know itself, nor does a tree, a cat, a dog, or a person. And that's where I might, that's my body mind. I don't really know myself. Objects, I'm an object. My body mind is an object of experience, and therefore it does not know itself. Only awareness is aware of itself.
Mm. Yeah, that gives an important distinction. And until I met Rupert, I thought trees, cats, dogs, animals, I thought all of everything had the same awareness. Thinking that there were separate awarenesses that were all the same awareness. And there's a real clear distinction that there's only awareness. There's only consciousness. And it was Jenny Beal and I, we did a year of there is only one being. We had a monthly where we opened the Course in Miracles up, and we pulled something out of the Course each month, and it was really focused on that there is only one being, and there is only awareness, same distinction. There is only consciousness, and all of these things, just as you said, all of the objects of experience, this bodysuit, and all the bodysuits are objects of experience. Rising in awareness. I love it.
Yes.
Is my transmission okay?
Much better.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay, good. And what else did you see on this page?
Well, in the next paragraph, the second half of the thought there is, it is the name that awareness gives to itself and should be reserved for awareness alone. And that's where I thought I had a little question there. I thought, well, I refer to myself as I, but then I really see how he's building my awareness of I into the awareness of I as we go through to the next page. He's kind of incorporating myself as I am as the awareness of I am, which is the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's also giving a heads up that when the word I is put in front of something, it's bringing identity to the something.
Yes.
It's bringing God's identity to the something, like I hate you, or I'm sad, or I'm sick. All of those are it's subtle, but that's what it's saying.
So I is really what the connection is. I alone is that connection between the essence of Rana and awareness. That's how we're connected. I believe in that I.
Yeah.
And it says that God, it's also the name of God, and God's presence shines in each of us. So we have that shared shining that you were talking about before, about it's not that we each have our own individual awarenesses into one big awareness. This shines ever present, everywhere, in all things, even in the objects of experience, it shines.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about that, that each one of us is the essence of I, or the essence of I am, shining through the filter of the body mind. And that's why if we ignore our I am, if we ignore the I am, then we give identification and experience fully to the body mind experience, and we get lost in it,
attaching all those thoughts and sensations and ideas to the I.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any hello everyone, it's good to see you all. Hi Eve. Eve says at 12:04, what a day we are having. This chapter holds a timely message for us, especially page 106. This knowledge is the same for everyone. Everyone, timely indeed. Yes. And Rick said, to say that awareness is shared is still a verbal concession. Yes. That's true. That's true.
And Rick, you've taught me that. So when I was thinking about that before this, get together, and it came to me shared, I was like, oh, Rick's going to get me when I say that.
Bam.
But bam, right. Unfortunately, we need language, right? We need some sort of communication, since we're not so telepathic.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Eve. The next page is such a bang up page for what's going on, in our world today. Was there something else in the chat, Bill? Excuse me.
No, that's it. Let's keep going. Let's move to 106.
Okay. So before we know anything else, we know we are. We know our own being. We know I am. It's the mind's primary knowledge. And so that's where I get that connection. If awareness is I, and I know I am, then I must be awareness. That's what I'm thinking about here.
Yes.
And as Eve pointed out, it's the same for everyone. And he uses, Hitler, Ramana Maharshi, Buddha, Putin, Zelensky, Biden, Trump, everybody. The awareness is the same.
Yeah.
But their thoughts, feelings, activities, and relationships were different, and obscured by experience. And for me, that sentence is where the compassion comes in for me, to just realize, that awareness is expressing itself through a number of different ways and beings and its, and, even though there isn't, there, but all these expressions. And if I look at another body mind expression of awareness that I judge, and I think he's bad, he's doing this, I'm able to step back today and just realize that at one point or another, that person was an infant too, with just pure awareness, uncolored by any of the experiences. And so it gives me a compassion. Putin wasn't Putin when he was 2 months old.
Well, even that gives an idea of judgment.
Okay.
It really, and there is going to be judgment, and that is seen. So Bill's going to have judgment. He's going to have preferences, and the distinction is that it's seen. It's seen and it doesn't need to be different. Because when it's seen in the light of awareness, it loses its coloring. It loses. So if it's not, it just as it's seen, as I am or I shines and doesn't touch, then the seeming separate coloring is divested. And it's not something that we do so that that occurs, but that happens just as being established, as resting as awareness.
So
Yeah.
the change I experienced, you're saying, in the way I'm looking at, we'll say, Putin, that compassion is still a judgment of the body mind, right? It's more than just I am. The idea of having compassion is just like another thought or emotion or sensation of this body mind.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and so is like Sandra at 12:12 said, is it really judgment or is it discernment? It's both, and it's seen by what is. It has no commentary. It's seen by awareness that has no good or bad qualities, no labeling, no judgment or discernment. So that's the distinction is to, yes, there's judgment, there's discernment, and that is seen and we don't touch it.
Very good. Yes.
Jenny said at 12:12, Putin doesn't choose his thoughts. Yeah, right. Right. Good one. However,
Right.
horrendous. They come from awareness. So we cannot say he is guilty. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you,
Right.
Jenny.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
new to me. I heard that in another forum recently, that my thoughts are not my thoughts. They too are arising in this awareness.
Yeah. They come and I asked this of Rupert few weeks back when in a webinar. I asked him about, well, when Rupert says, don't, or who is he saying don't to? Don't judge. Who are you saying don't to? There's the bodysuit isn't judging if I'm not making up the thoughts, right? So yeah, they just happen. They just happen. And Mike Bomber said the statement "only awareness knows itself" sounds like duality to me. Can't we just say all there is awareness? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can say that. All there in the you could say there's only consciousness. There's only awareness and no more words. But then we need to turn our computers off and go back, and sit in a corner and do nothing. So we do need to use words to talk about it. Eve said, in this case, he is still always awareness, only obscured. I must remember this. Yeah, thank you. Description. Okay, Michelle at 12:13 said, description of behavior can sometimes seem like judgment. Yeah, judgment isn't always like you're bad. Judgment is determining a good or a bad, a right or a wrong, a just or an unjust. It's duality. Judgment is nothing more than duality in its most subtle sense. And that's why being established in being myself, being established as awareness, and see everything from there becomes a new default. When that happens, then we're living differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing. It says on the paragraph on the bottom, everyone knows their own being. That is, the being in everyone knows itself. Oh, excuse me. In the paragraph above, nor is the recognition of our own being extraordinary or difficult. I mean, what a relief to know that it's not difficult. I just have to do that investigation. What is it that is aware of what I'm thinking?
Of all experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
it's not difficult.
and we can all do that just right now. Just pause. And everybody has the sense of being myself. So let's everyone just drop in and be aware of being myself. And that's it. Nothing magic or extraordinary right there. Is it that easy? Yes. Do we miss it? All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So what else do we have on 106? I think
well,
I think we
and
covered
he
it.
goes through that question. Ask any of the 7 billion people on earth, are you present or are you aware? And as long as you understand the question, the answer is always yes, I am.
Yeah.
You know, and so for anybody that's new to this, you know, the first time Bill asked that question when I was with him, I heard it in my head. I am. I heard it plain as day. So
Yeah.
that was a nice feeling.
We were on a call. Was it yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
We were on a call yesterday and someone said, is it that easy? Is it that simple? Because she saw the glimpse of awareness and the mind came in immediately and said, is it that simple? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Rick said at 12:13, awareness is too often only associated with the good, but it's also the essence of the bad, ugly, and ignorance. Yeah, it is full stop.
Yeah.
And that's what Jenny pointed out too, that, you know, Putin doesn't choose his thoughts. He's just awareness being filtered through this bodysuit that looks like this guy named Putin, but he doesn't choose those thoughts.
Right. I guess we were kind of talking about it in the green room before. You know, I get to be the essence of I am, having this physical experience on this beautiful or not so beautiful planet. You know, it's awareness exploring, I feel, through this, you know, if that's where my thoughts are coming from.
Yeah.
I like the sense of having a purpose for my body mind.
Yeah. Don't we all? And Brenda said at 12:14, judgment is when you put a right or wrong to it. Observation is just that you observe without putting a judgment to it. And that's true. And that's also seen by something that has it is not the observer. It's seeing.
Yeah.
It's not even the seer, it's seeing. And Yada said, what? Being in the empty room as the air with all other air particles with no name, as they cease to be Putin or Rana or Bill with no good or bad. Yes, yes.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. And also the air is an object of experience, right?
Right. It's got molecules.
Yeah. Let's see. Sandra said, I'm sorry, but I am new to this and I don't understand. If awareness is love and peace, those are qualities. Sandra, do you want to come on and ask and make a question out of that? Sandra?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm sorry that I I'm not getting it, but I thought I was when I was reading this. What I
Well,
don't
what is it?
understand, what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that no judgment. When Rona expressed compassion, that was a judgment, you said. So when I've been resting in awareness, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts I have are loving, peaceful, compassion, joyful, extremely joyful. I think of those as attributes or qualities. And I thought I heard you saying there were no attributes or qualities to awareness, that it was simple and it didn't matter. There was no judgment as to good or bad. And
Well,
I don't understand. That sounds like nothingness. And I don't get that. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, I think we just, it could be that I didn't say that awareness doesn't have those qualities. Those qualities are arising out of awareness, but awareness is the absolute essence of reality. So it doesn't have qualities. Qualities rise out of it. It doesn't have it's the isness of consciousness. So it's untouched and unchanged and uncolored. It's not colored by the experiences. It's just the isness of I am. So but all of those qualities that you just mentioned, they arise out of awareness. Just like Rick mentioned that the qualities that are ugly and hateful and the things of atrocities, those also arise out of awareness.
That's very depressing.
Well, is it depressing, or is it
Yes.
a relief? If you are awareness, if you are awareness of experience, if your primary position is the untouched eternal presence, and your I am presence is untouched by any of these thoughts, feelings, emotions, experiences, that's depressing.
I guess what I maybe I'm not hearing you correctly, because I thought you were saying that awareness could express itself as ugliness and hatred and violence.
Well,
and therefore, so to me, I was under the perhaps illusion that once everyone became aware and the planet began to evolve in that direction, that we would have less violence and war.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that statement. I totally agree with that statement. And yet you can't be attached to an outcome to be established as awareness brings peace to the experience, because you know that this is a temporary activity of the infiniteness of being, which is what you are essentially. So you have to give a little bit of space between the awareness of experience and the experience, so that you can experience this absolute presence that you are. So if I ask you right now, Sandra, are you aware of this experience?
Yes.
And does this awareness have an age?
No.
Does it have a gender?
No.
Stay right there and let's keep reading. Stay
Okay.
right there and let's keep
Thank
reading.
you.
And just keep following, watch Rupert's videos and keep following, keep coming and asking your great questions. I think you have great questions. And, but you're having glimpses. You're really seeing, just as Being Myself is pointing us to, you're having that experience. And be gentle on yourself, because when you're established as awareness, these other activities of the bodysuit, these activities on the news, these activities of atrocities and other things, they take on a different character, and it doesn't erase compassion. Just what Rana was saying, it actually softens it so that you're no longer so emotionally caught up in your in beliefs and ideas about right and wrong, but you can be compassionate to all things. Anyway, thanks
Thank
for the
you.
great
Thank
question. I think we need to move on because we're at the half hour.
Okay.
Rana, what do you see on page 107?
In the second paragraph, I believe that's where this sacredness really comes in. When God's statement to Moses, I am that I am. That's why the name I is sacred. It's a holy name, the name of God, which is what I am. I am that I am. And so I find it interesting that in, the 2000 years that got a little bit messed up. Like God, as you've said before, Moses didn't quite get it. that he was saying, I am that I am.
Yeah, that was more like 5,000 years, because
Okay.
that was 3 or 4, maybe 7,000 years. Moses was way before Jesus.
Right.
Yeah. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation now and we're talking about Moses. If you would have just listened to yourself, you would have had a different story to Pharaoh. Who knows what it would have happened?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So
And then,
go ahead, Rana.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that in the fourth paragraph on page 107, Rupert says, all experience is a temporary coloring of unconditioned, unlimited, self-aware being. So in that statement right there, that's everything that I was just speaking to Sandra, that all experience is a temporary coloring of unconditioned, unlimited, self-aware being. So all of everything is a coloring from this essential self that we all share. And the good thing is just as he said here, it's temporary. It's a temporary, this bodysuit that has your name on it, it's just a temporary coloring of the one experience of awareness. That's a total relief to me.
Me
no matter
too.
what I did or what someone else did that was terrible, it's just a temporary coloring of the absolute. And it's just playing in a sandbox of consciousness.
Yes. Yes. and there's that wonderful description. Experience is the activity of being, or I like to say awareness there. Experience is the activity of awareness, and awareness is experience at rest. So there's that beautiful space when I rest in that awareness, when I pull off those body mind ideas and thoughts and attachment. And in that beautiful space, there's just this stillness and peace. And that's what I am. That's why I can go there, because I am, even though there's nowhere to go, Rick.
Well, Rick has he has some good comments here. Actually, Cindy Good said absoluting. Thank you, Cindy. And then Lisa Renee at 1221 said, so on page 106, when he says, in one case, it was obscured by experience, and in others, it was not. What is being said? Hitler, Ramana Maharshi, Buddha. Well, he's giving a distinction between Hitler's activities and Ramana Maharshi's and Buddha's activities. That's what he's doing. He's just giving a distinction. In one experience, it was obscured in Hitler, and another experience, it was not.
Yeah. And the colorings of it, right?
Yeah.
Hitler's
Yeah,
color
they were
produced that.
just different.
Yeah.
They were, but just different. And the bottom line is we must come to a place where we don't make anyone guilty. I mean, if you're in a jury and and the evidence is put in front of you and you're deciding whether somebody is guilty of war crimes, you would probably make them guilty. Doesn't mean you would be oh well, nobody's guilty. So that's not the same kind of not guilty. In relative terms, people that do terrible things need to go to jail and stop hurting people. In absolute terms, this understanding really helps us to have peace in the overall scheme of things, to have peace and actually bring Putin or Hitler or people that do terrible things, bring their experience into awareness and love it. Love it. Don't separate it. Bring it into the experience of love's presence, and allow it to just softly be divested of that energy. That's what I do. That's the way I pray.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So let's look at page 108.
Okay.
Rhonda,
Yep.
what do you see on that?
So this is back to kind of what we've been talking about. The third paragraph down, allow yourself to be colored by experience temporarily, but do not become limited by it. So to identify the I am with statements like sad or tired or hungry or I am a man, that's how this beautiful infinite awareness becomes limited. And it's like I've forgotten what I truly am and gotten so involved in these objects of experience and labels of all that.
Yeah.
So when I am becomes this or that, it ceases to be infinite and it becomes finite.
Yeah.
And the separate self or ego is an apparent and ultimately illusory limitation, self-assumed by infinite being. So it sort of sounds like there's an activity there, that awareness is assuming these finite qualities in order to have these experiences.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Right?
And this is an example of, in that second paragraph, where Rupert says, "Do not allow." When I had that conversation, I asked him a question in a webinar. I said, "Well, who are you saying do not to? If no one makes choices, who's making the choice that you're saying do not?"
Right. And there's our little sentence that says the being you share with everything and everyone. And so I thought there's no everything and everyone, but everything arises in awareness in the relative sense. And this oneness or awareness is shared by all beings. We don't each have our own individual awarenesses. There is one being.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
There is
So
only one
leave that
being.
page. There is only one being.
Right.
Or one,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
I.
There's only I. Yes.
There's only I. So
Yeah.
the last paragraph, I love this sentence. The finite cannot exist alongside the infinite, for if the finite displaced a part of the infinite would no longer be infinite.
There it is.
I just love it. It's kind of
There
a
it is.
play on words, but it's true. If I limit this I am somehow by labeling or assuming some form or object of identification, then I've forgotten that I'm infinite. How can it be infinite if I'm caught up in all that?
Yeah. Yeah. And look at the last sentence.
There's the last sentence. If Bill's frozen on your screen, he's filled on me. To believe I am a man, a woman, or a person is to impose a limit on God's infinite being and to deny the existence of God's infinite being. And that is blasphemy. That's what blew my mind. One of the first times I heard Rupert, he was talking with a lovely woman about collapsing the distance between him, ourselves, and God.
Mhm.
And, he said, it's not blasphemy to believe that you are God's infinite being. It's blasphemy to believe that you're separate from that.
Yeah.
And that just brought, a sense of humor and just a giggle to me. It's like, oh,
Mhm. Yeah.
true blasphemy.
Yes, yes. And I mean, people have a hard time, even on the path, especially the path of Course in Miracles. They have a hard time saying, I am what God is, or accepting that you are what God is. You are what God is. Even in this bodysuit, you're what God is.
Isn't that some of the conditioning and coloring that has happened in this finite self? Is that it came up with this false belief that I don't get to say I am God. There's the coloring I'm thinking right there.
The difference is that when the mind that thinks it's separate thinks it's God, it becomes delusional.
Right. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Can't say that.
So Jenny at 1227 said, awareness manifests as love, freedom, beauty, etc., depending on the context in which we are experiencing it. The wow that stops you in your tracks on seeing something beautiful is experienced as beauty. But there is no separate self. There is an experience of awareness. The same with love. When you fall in love and there is a loss of the feeling of separation. Yeah, that's what gives you the thinking that you're falling in love with this person you've joined in oneness, and then the body has sensations that follow that. Yeah. And then Rick said, Popeye was right all along. Yeah, I love that. I am that I am, and that's all that I am. Thank you, Rick. Let's see. What else do we have on 10?
Well, this whole page on 109 is just great because it just talks about, to say fourth paragraph down, to say I believe I am sick or I lack something is to identify oneself as finite. Right there, I'm limiting myself and missing the boat and not, there's where I think a lot of states of disease come into this relative body, is to believe in that lack and sickness and all that. But what I'm learning now is if I can remember my true, eternal, changeless wholeness is I am, that can't be sick. That is not lacking anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, if there's a symptom that where there's a pain, there's a sensation, there's something that's occurring, I don't talk about it. I stopped telling people about it. If there's something that I'm seeing, it's belief. It's a belief that I think that's what this is. And guess what I'm doing? I'm anchoring I am to that belief.
Yes.
So I don't, when Jesus said, when he, and we don't know the real details of his healing ministry, his healing experiences 2,000 years ago, but I do recall in the New Testament, when someone was healed, he would tell them to go and tell no one.
Right.
Why? Because they would bring it right back to the symptom again.
And also, he was not the healer, right? That
Right.
body was not the healer. The I am is the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like at the bottom of page 109, there's the second to last paragraph. There's sort of a practice, even though he says there's no practice on the next page.
Yeah.
But whenever we feel sad, lonely, anxious, or depressed, or I would add, feeling that one way or another about what's going on the other, in Ukraine and with all of that, we should pause and notice. And that feeling is not essential to the knowledge I am. So there's that. We're not judging or discerning, we're noticing. There's a soft gaze. There's a soft awareness for me now when I go to that spot. And I think he describes that, this is the way that we keep this I sacred, each one of us, is to realize that I'm attaching something to this essential nature of myself. And that's where I take things too seriously.
Yeah. Good catch on that. It's a non-practice practice.
Yes,
But
because when you turn the page.
Really good one though. It's a
Yeah.
really good non-practice practice.
That's the so simple we miss it.
Yeah. Pause and notice
there.
is all he's saying right there.
Right. And
Untether yourself from the experience. Pause and notice.
It's just a bunch of chitty chatter going on. And I don't need to limit what I am with that. Yeah. Do not give yourself a way to experience. That last sentence on 109. It's almost like if I attach, I'm giving myself away. Yeah.
Well, and the idea that I've heard from people is, that of course, most everyone here knows the truth of this, that it's not burying your head in the sand to pause and notice, just to pause and notice, and then bringing your attention to I am, as he says in the last paragraph. Now you're going to be responding from a place of compassion. You'll be responding from a place that is now being intuited from divine intelligence, from a place that is I am.
And that peace that I am experiencing in that moment, I'm taught that peace touches millions of other body minds or others in this awareness, even if they don't believe there is awareness. I can do great works just by pausing in this space because we have one mind.
Yeah. So let's turn the page. We have a couple pages left.
Yeah, I think we can do it.
Yep.
The third paragraph down was my fave.
Okay.
The personal self is not one kind of self, and God's infinite being another kind of self. The personal self is simply God's infinite being mixed with the limitations of experience. So they're not two selves. There's not a personal self and an impersonal self. I think it's been described before as it's always impersonal. Did we talk about that in some of the earlier chapters, that it's impersonal, this awareness? Maybe Rick remembers. But there is one self freely assuming the form of each of our minds, seeming to limit itself and become separate, but never, in fact, ceasing to be itself alone. We just think we're separate.
Well, this goes back to what Jenny said when she highlighted that, there's Putin's not guilty. Well, she was talking about he doesn't choose his thoughts, but it also points out that that everything that happens is God happening, is awareness happening. It's I am doing it to itself, whether it's going to a birthday party or somebody that's committing murder. It's still God that's doing it.
Right.
It's in the big picture, of course, in a
Right.
relative sense, that this is just my personal feeling. I feel that as we evolve in consciousness, and who knows if it's going to be 100 years or 10,000 years, I feel that consciousness will no longer play in that sandbox. It'll be playing in a sandbox that won't be hurting itself.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, and I guess all experiences are infinite. There's an infinite number of possibilities that awareness can have as an experience in what we think is our reality. So what we see as love or hate or whatever, that, like you said, that's awareness experiencing itself through all those different infinite possible ways of being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see a question or an answer to Holger from Rosie. Was there a question that Holger had? I didn't see that. It looked like Holger, you said not a word answer. What is that? Is that a question that you had?
No. It was just a reply.
Oh, okay.
And just meaning that the answer to I am is more like an experience than
Oh, yes,
putting things
yes.
into words.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, Bill, about can consciousness hurt itself?
Of course. Oh, not it. Consciousness doesn't hurt itself. Consciousness can't be changed or touched.
It's
If you're
perfect.
talking about the absolute is infinite. It just is. So it couldn't be touched by anything. What would it be touched by? It
Only-
couldn't.
Yeah, it could only be hurt by forgetting itself, seemingly.
Well, I mean,
But-
you could say that about what Putin is doing to Ukraine. So, in a sense, in a relative sense, it appears that consciousness is hurting itself, but it's not at the absolute level, because consciousness just is. It doesn't change and it's not altered by experience. So it's just the isness of being. So at the absolute level, nothing happens except that it just is. It just is. And then creation comes out of that. Activities come out of that. Rupert has in his teaching establishes that awareness is the same as consciousness. And then the activity of awareness is awareness in action, or you could call it mind. Mind is awareness in action, and awareness is mind at rest. And awareness isn't altered by any experience.
Thank you, Bill. I just wanted to say I really appreciate this meeting, and it's wonderful to come together in this attitude. And
thank you. Great to have you and everyone else. Thank you. And Sylvia, you have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I'm confused. Are you saying, I hope you're not, are you saying that, okay, awareness, everyone it's one awareness in each of us. Okay, so in Putin's case, so are you saying that God is committing these atrocities through Putin?
Well, the way you're saying it, it sounds like you're saying that God is doing this.
Yes.
And
That's
what
where
I
excuse me.
and so at an absolute level, there is only God. At an absolute level, there can't be some other way that it's happening. It's arising out of consciousness, and God is consciousness. So if you follow the trail, it leads back to God. Yes, everything is God.
So it's not the body mind that Putin is reacting out of?
Well, Putin doesn't make his, like, it's just same thing that Jenny said. Putin doesn't make his own, Putin doesn't have thoughts. Thoughts arise, and the body mind named Putin takes credit for those thoughts. But those thoughts are consciousness that is occurring through the coloring of the one we call Putin.
Oh.
And everything is happening out of, so it's only the mind Rick said it a few minutes back. It's only the mind that has trouble with this, because on a relative sense, it certainly does matter if my neighbor is shooting my other neighbors or hurting his family members, or if people hurt other people. In a relative sense, that matters. And really, these kinds of questions don't really belong in the same discovery of self-discovery, because self-discovery is using the content of the non-dual ideas and the direct experience, so that one can be established in the peace of God, in the peace of pure presence, even in the midst of travesty, even in the midst of atrocities. One can be established and have and know that this is a temporary coloring of consciousness. So you can actually find peace in the midst of atrocities, even though on a relative sense, none of us would stand for those kinds of behaviors. So it's really for the purpose of being established in your essential nature, Sylvia. So it's important that we look at the kinds of questions that are coming up, because we're using Putin and Hitler and those kinds of distinctions. It's important to realize that we're looking at these ideas at a very high level of consciousness to be established in our primary essential self. Yeah. But yes, all of that bad shit happens out of consciousness.
Okay, thank you.
All
But
of
I'm
it.
the one that labeled it that, because it just is.
Right. Melissa said, oh, thank you, Melissa. Dream characters can hurt dream characters. Very good. I love that. But only in the dream, not in reality. Yeah. That's awesome. And Jenny said, the atrocities just happen. God is not an entity that chooses what happened. It is the infinite field in which things happen. Yeah. Thank you. Those are really important commentaries, because at a relative sense, we're going, oh my God, God's doing that? Well, at the highest level, of course, there's only God, but we're just playing with words here to establish our true self. And once you're established in your true self, it may sound impersonal, because it is, but you're not so attached to the outcome. You're not so attached to the atrocity, and yet your compassion and love for humanity will bring compassion. Rick has a comment at 12:52. A bit of confusion can be a very good thing. Sometimes it takes a little confusion to break free of our habitual and conditioned belief structures. Yes, Yes. William Price. Good to see you, William. Is the shark guilty for eating the tuna? Nature is naturing. Yeah, I don't think so. There's nobody's guilty, really. In truth, no one's guilty. Question from Judy. So if Putin were to suddenly know himself as the I am and remember that he is one with all the external events that we see, I imagine they would stop. Yes. I'll bet you. I mean, I'd put a big bet on that. I'd put a big bet on that. Yeah. I am wouldn't hurt itself. When you come to know this understanding, you start to, you get bothered by killing bugs. You get bothered by killing things that are a disturbance in your house. And so I'm sure that he would totally stop everything. That's my guess. What do you think?
I
Rana,
think so.
we have a few minutes left. How do
Yep.
you want to close this?
Well, let's just go down to the bottom of 111,
Okay.
And I saw that there was a question from Sonia about the King Lear thing. And I think we established that John Smith is awareness, King Lear is the body mind, but
Yep.
it is the infinite self. So just to go over that. But on the bottom of 111, right after the 3 asterisks, the knowledge I am or the feeling of being myself is a hint or trace of God's presence. It gives the mind the direction in which to go if it wants to know its own essence and reality. It is the direct path to peace and happiness. And I thought of the idea that it's a communication there. I really feel like this was a calling for me personally, to that awareness called me through a number of body, minds, and individuals and just different things. And I was ready to experience the I am in this way. It felt like a direct communication experience.
Yeah.
The last sentence, take the thought I am and allow it to lead us to its source. And that's what I found is in that quiet stillness, I'm led back to that infinite place. That's, God's being before qualified, it says on the top of 112.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing I would say, since we have 1 minute left, to abide in the I am is the highest meditation. It takes the mind directly to its essence, the most sacred prayer. And it is the prayer for which all other prayers are a preparation. And I can see that for myself today.
Yep. Yep. And so it is. What an awesome chapter and riff back and forth. Great questions and comments from everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. And we have 1 chapter left. Cindy Good is our co-host next week. And excited about Cindy being here. I loved the book club today. It was so great. And so what we're going to do, if you don't have this book, I Am, go ahead and get it. We're going to start the I Am by popular request is going to be our next book. We'll probably start it mid April. So we'll have a week or 2 off, and then we'll pick up on I Am with Jean Klein, the essays. And I'm not sure I'll figure out how many weeks we'll cover that, but I want to try to fill that gap for Rupert's next book that's not out yet. And thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Bill, can I just mention the time change, because quite a lot of people have just joined in the last 5 minutes or so. So
Okay.
the US have gone to daylight savings. And so for the UK and Central Europe, the time was an hour earlier today and next week. So,
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
okay, thanks.
I forgot to mention that. You mentioned it last week, Susan. Thank you. And I'll see you all next week. Have an awesome week. Bye.
Thank you so much.